everybody, welcome back to the Airing It Out podcast. I hope that you're doing well. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to say that we're on Spotify and we're on YouTube, and what we're fundamentally trying to do is trying to get this message out to as many people as we can, and we need your help in doing that. So if you could leave us a like, drop a comment or a share on YouTube, or if you listen on Spotify, if you could give us a rate, then that gives us that little boost in helping get this to more people. Thank you for all your support, and we're grateful to have you here with us. So I don't think it's too far a stretch to say that we're made up of genetic, social, cultural, and maybe even political influences. That's what makes up who we are as individuals and as people. And while the conversation of mental health is improving, I think it's important to acknowledge where it's coming from, or at least where we're coming from in regard to it. We can have genetic predispositions based off of our family and what they thought and how they've taught us to perceive it. And there are also cultural stigmas surrounding mental health. So much like with the James Bond films portraying body positivity in a negative way, you've always got someone with an eye patch or a missing hand. It kind of creates a bad representation. The same has happened in mental health. Oftentimes, particularly post-World War II, it was a very easy tool for media to paint villains and scary people and antagonists in horror films or crime thrillers or any of the like. Mental health was an easy one to use. It was an easy plot tool to help sell the story, but that then cast a pretty ugly and misinterpretive shadow over what mental health actually is. So those are the kind of misconceptions that we are coming from, and I think it's important to recognise them and the influence that they've had on us while we're trying to understand what it is that we can do in order to be better. Because we are the way that we are because of how we've been made to think and feel and what we've been taught. So I think recognising some of those things as a whole can help us to then understand ourselves and move forward with trying to be better, healthier individuals and communities. So today what we're going to be looking at is the barriers that we face when accessing mental health support and what we can do to improve them. So just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a professional. This is not a substitute for professional help. I'm not qualified to be giving out help, and I'm not ever going to try and do so. We will, particularly given the nature of this episode, always offer in the bios and the descriptions of the episodes that we have places where you can go and access that support should you feel that you need it. So the stigma of mental illness, that's a big one. That's a bit of an obvious one. We've got the concerns about confidentiality and trust. The professionals are obligated to do what it is that they do and handle your information, but I understand what that means. There could be ramifications for you as an individual. So that can be scary. You might have a dislike of talking about mental health problems. It's a very British thing. I think one of the things that is going to be recurrent in some of these barriers that we face is they're pretty British things. This is what I was kind of talking about when we was talking about the cultural influences. If we don't like talking about our feelings, particularly men, but there is benefit to it, and something can be gotten out of it. You might have concerns about seeing as weak and incapable. Oh God, right, okay. This is definitely a male thing. Again, one of the messages that we're trying to convey with the podcast is that ownership of your emotions and recognising how you feel doesn't make you weak. In fact, I personally believe that it makes you a stronger individual. But that doesn't make it easy. You might be unsure of where to go for help. Well, please check the show notes of this episode, and we will try always be updating and including more of those places to signpost to you if you want that help. You might believe that the problem is not serious enough to ask for help. I get this one personally. I had it for 4 or 5 weeks. I hit my head really hard at the station, so much so I felt it in my teeth, and I had like mild concussive symptoms, but they didn't go away. But it went on for like 4 weeks because it was just minor enough to me to think, doesn't matter, it's not a big deal, it's not a problem. Your problems aren't insignificant, but I think we'll be touching on that soon enough. Another one here is not having easy access to mental health professionals who can help you. For example, being unable to take time away from work for an appointment. I get that one. One of my friends, he's very hard working, and I know that there are some things that he would like to take some time to get sorted and seen, but he just can't seem to get a break away from work. And while that is something which I don't think I can speak to or offer any advice or anything which is going to contribute to your personal dilemma, if that is your situation, your health comes first. Your health has to come first. You have to prioritize being well within yourself in order to do what it is that you do. And you don't deserve to suffer. You don't deserve to live with whatever problem you think you might be facing. You might be concerned about what others think. Again, like when you say it like that, you're like, well, but it's so common. You would be surprised, particularly in the social media age, where we're put at the forefront of displaying ourselves to innumerable people. It's hard not to, particularly now more than ever, to try not to think what other people think. But this is something that you got to do if it is something that you're dealing with. And like in the grand scheme of it, other people don't really matter. Again, this is your health. Other people, be damned, they've got their own problems. And like I keep seeing in literature and through philosophy that more often than not, everybody else is concerned with their own problems more so than what they think or feel about you. So don't worry about it. Be right by you. Concerns about the treatments that they may get offered and their impact. That makes sense. Like, you can go to one of these things and begin getting that health sorted, but if that means taking time off, if that means getting treatment, if that means doing something that you don't want to do, then yeah, that can be scary. That's an element of the unknown which you can't face until you know what it is and you get told by a professional. And yeah, that's going to be scary. That's not an exciting thing to look forward to, particularly if it's something like your health, something that's important, and if you love what it is that you're doing in the meantime. But you won't know until you know. We also have fears about the outcome of seeking help. I think that's much in the same with the last one, but what this could mean is that if you know you have something wrong, or for an example, if you know you have something wrong and you're managing to get by, but you go to one of these appointments, you might be afraid of being told that you actually have that thing. You might not want to be told that you have this thing, because at the moment you can get by with kind of just having, not worrying about it so much. But however hard it is important to face the truth. You've got to know what it is so that you can deal with it. But again, that doesn't make it easy. You might face language barriers where individuals don't speak English as a first language or may not be able to express themselves. Yeah, that sounds like a tricky one. If I were in a foreign country and had to seek medical help or help for my mental health, and not many people speak my language. And we also have the different cultural perceptions of mental ill health, and they may make individuals feel reluctant to seek help. For example, they may be ashamed of having mental health issues. This is a very cultural, societal, or predisposed genetic issue. It's the way that you're brought up, the way that you're raised, the way that you're made to think. If you come from a very stern, strong, silent type kind of manly household, then feeling something inside, maybe going against the ways that you were raised, and you may feel ashamed for that, and you may feel like, well, none of my family deal with this, none of my family acknowledge this, that makes me a bit of a black sheep, that makes me an outcast. But yeah, that's a really awful one, but that's something that we're trying to deal with. And in recognizing that that might be something which is stopping you from getting the help that you need, or that you feel like you could really benefit from, hopefully it will encourage you, because we aren't the same as the generation before us, just as the generation before us is not the same as their predecessors. The times are changing, mental health is different, the challenges we face are different, and so I don't think it's too far to say that we need to adopt a different approach to generations before us. So look, I think we've got a couple more. And just as a last note here, it says many of these barriers arise because of attitudes of mental ill health, a reluctance to admit the problem, and a lack of knowledge about mental ill health and the treatments available. Knowledge is power, information is power, and that's what you can do for yourself. Know what's out there, know what kind of help is available, and maybe get an idea of what the treatments are like. So the things about seeking help which may stop you from doing it, if you can learn more about them, then that's a step forward in the right direction, a step closer to maybe getting that help and getting a bit healthier. So now that we have spoken about the barriers that we face in accessing mental health support, what we're going to do now is have a look at a couple of the ways that we can reduce those barriers. The first one, have conversations to reduce misconceptions. That can be engaging with videos, like we are doing here, where people are talking about mental health. It can be talking to your friends about how you feel. It can be speaking to somebody or expressing the way that you feel, or having a conversation with yourself, writing it down, having a journal, be artistic. It's having that conversation or expression in some kind of way to better understand. Again, it's that understanding, knowing information, not keeping it within yourself, not keeping it unknown, and making it into something, because that's something that then you can work with. This also helps by that then develops your knowledge and awareness of mental health issues. So a problem shared is a problem halved. That's what my mum says. But when you're having a conversation, if you are being altruistic and honest with the person, then there's a chance that they might be the same with you. And having a conversation with a friend about how you feel might then open up a two-way dialogue, and gaining perspective and further information about how somebody else feels. That's then more information that you're giving to yourself. That's then a wider range of perspectives and a wider base of knowledge about mental health as a whole. So have conversations, check in with your friends, and something's bothering you or you just feel like it, talk about how you feel. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a problem. Like, don't be ashamed of it. I still get it. I still get things floating in my head which I'm not quite committing to getting out of me, but it's worth doing. You'll feel better for it afterwards. Encourage people to seek help early to prevent any serious problems. This is being proactive rather than reactive, and if you see it in somebody else and you can spot it, then encourage that person, because oftentimes stress and mental health issues can develop, if unchecked, if untreated, into more serious issues. So what we want to do is we want to try and catch it as early as we can. And it's also being there for somebody else, having that eye on somebody else and making sure that they're okay and they know that you're there for them. And that's always nice. Being able to say without a doubt that both you are there for somebody and knowing that somebody is there for you, that's confidence, that's security, that's reassurance, and that's community. What more can we do than that? That sounds fantastic. Another thing we can do is know where people can access help. Know where people can access help. So while we'll always feature a number of different places where we can signpost you towards getting help, if you haven't had a look at them before, I recommend it, just to know what they are, just to get an idea of what sort of things these people, these charities, organisations, businesses can offer you for, because they all do different things. Some of them a little bit more, not niche, but focused on different areas, whether it be for elderly people, whether it be for talking hotlines, suicide prevention, or the NHS. They all do something, and knowing who does what and where to go should you encounter a particular circumstance, then that gives you the confidence in knowing, oh right, cool, I can move forward with this because I know what to do and where to go. Emphasize no problem is too small or insignificant to talk about. You deserve to be happy, you deserve to be healthy. If something is stopping you from doing that, then you have every right to talk about it, every right to have it get some attention and get it treated. Just because you think something isn't small doesn't mean you shouldn't get it unseen. Doesn't mean you shouldn't get it seen. What we can do as a collective is learn and train yourself to recognise signs and stress of mental ill health. So this is understanding what it is that contributes to somebody who might need to access this health, this support, knowing what those signs are, know what to keep an eye out for, and train yourself in doing it. It's one thing to know what they are, okay, but we need to put that into practice. We need to keep a close, watchful eye on the people around us, the people that we care about, just to see, just to have that, just so we know what it looks like when it's happening, because we all know what it feels like, but doesn't necessarily mean that we see it. And it can be difficult to spot in others, but it can also be practiced. And in that practice, we are creating like a safeguarding community. We're not outwardly saying, I'm looking after you, I'm keeping a close watch on you, but just, in your own time, in your own space, if you can practice those things, you can be there, in your own confidence for those other people, and those other people might be there for you. And if we're all keeping an eye out for each other, we're all caring for each other, we're all looking out for each other. And that, I think, is something worthy to strive towards. We can reduce the barriers by active listening, making somebody feel, if they're talking to you, make them feel heard, make them feel listened to, make them feel that if they've taken that step, that they do not feel that their efforts are being wasted, because that is an awful feeling. We want to give them the confidence, we want to give them the space and the time to say what they have to say. And that's a very important one. Check out our episode on active listening. So we want to also respect confidentiality and build trust. This one comes in part with the last one. Unless that person is giving you express permission to share that, then it is up to you as somebody who cares, like a friend or a family member, to keep that between you and that person, because that is that trust. If you can respect and honour that trust, then that builds that bond, and that bond is then strengthened, and that you have a bond of trust and care, wherein you're both looking out for each other, you both know that you're there for each other, and you have each other's backs, and that's worth looking after. And we also want to challenge different cultural perspectives. Now, I know that can be a pretty broad one, but that doesn't necessarily mean go out, find somebody with a different perspective and say, you, come on, let's get down to it, we're going to have it out now. It can be very minor. It can be seeing something on the internet and just thinking to yourself, is that what I think? Is that what I believe? If not, why do I disagree with it? Why do I not agree with it? And what parts are there to be taken away from it? It's different people's perspectives, and we're creating a bit of a boiling pot of merging them together, testing, experimenting, trialing, see what works for us, understanding our values, and in understanding our values we can stand by and uphold them. it could be considered in the way that we mentioned at the start of the episode. We have generational differences in perspective. We have misconceptions and stigmas. These are all cultural differences that we are trying to address now, or trying to challenge now, because what we had, you could argue, did not work, or is not working now. And so what we're trying to do is have a conversation about it, talk about ways in which have been tried and tested that do work, and also kind of looking at the ways in which some of the old ones don't. And that is an example of challenging perceptions. Yeah. It's just something to think about. Just bring it into question, have that dialogue with yourself, and understand your values as well as the values of the people, what works for people. Yeah. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for joining us. I hope this has been beneficial. It's not so much this is going to have a direct benefit to your life, but this is more ammunition that we can give to ourselves. It's information, it's knowledge against mental ill health and working towards better mental health, not for the individual alone, but as a collective. And these are the tools that we want to try encourage people to build, so that we can make things better for ourselves and for others. I hope you've got something out of it. I hope that you're able to use some of the things that we've been speaking about today, and thank you for joining us. Again, if you would, a like, share, rate or comment would mean the absolute world to us. If not, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Please take care of yourself, and we'll see you later. This has been a Common Bird production.